Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Jay, and this is my Diecast Creations channel. Today, you guys are going to see something a little different. I mentioned in a previous video, I was invited to a Demolition Derby build-off by Jamie over at Devil's Detail Diecast, and I didn't follow the rules, so I'm building another car. But before we get to that video, which is going to come out next month, April 9th, I believe it airs, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a history on why I'm making this car and you know where I come from. So I grew up at Riverhead Raceway on Long Island, New York, and as a child, we would be at the racetrack every weekend, me and my brothers, and my mom would bring us there since the time I was like 2 years old, So in the late 80s, early 90s, we would be there. We'd be there every weekend, and they had demolition derbies. Barbara and Jim Cromedy started doing demolition derbies around 1985 or so, and as a child watching these things, it was awesome. It was the greatest thing ever. These guys were heroes on the battlefield at the end of the night, and they were just normal guys in flesh, but when they got into these cars, they became heroes to the kids that were there watching these things. And I remember, this is 30 years ago, but I remember, some of the big names were like Doc Dockerson and Whiplash, Bob Genovese, and Speedo, Zigzag, Hitman, Mad Hatter, Gravel Bucks, Irish Mike, Mad Mike, Orange Crush, the Misery Machine, Hole in the Head, Charles Astacio, Eugene Malverde, Cheesebox Mike Romney. The list goes on and on and on. And I apologize if I missed anybody there. But growing up at the track and watching these demolition derbies, I never did a demo myself. My younger brother actually got into a school bus demo, which was pretty cool to watch. But there was a lot of envy that goes into it, and you watch these guys go full blast at each other, and all the hard work and effort that they put into these cars, and just to go out there for 10 minutes and destroy it all, but to go out in a blaze of glory, and use tactics and teamwork sometimes to take out the strongest guys early and make sure that they had a chance of survive until the end, right? And it was really awesome. It was really awesome, and to witness that back in the late 80s, early 90s as a child, and then grow up and watch some of my friends get into it and make friends with the guys that were doing it. It was really special, it was really special. And, it goes to say that, if you work hard enough, you can achieve whatever you want. Right. And these guys were just regular Joes. They didn't have all the money in the world, and this is what they lived for, and some still do, but at the end of the day, like as a kid, when somebody asks you who's your favorite, there's always one guy that sticks out, and calls to you as a child, right? And I remember when anybody would ask me who my favorite was, it was always the same answer. And this guy was just a regular guy that showed up every time, and he was always in the running for the win. He was 9 times out of 10, he was there in the last 3 or 4 cars, and you could tell that he really put his time into his builds, and his cars were structured the way that they needed to be, and he used tactics. He wasn't always the heaviest hitter, but he made his hits, and he knew when to hold them and when to fold them, right? And he would come out at the end and always have a fight to the end there. So it was just great. It was great to watch. And we would go into the pits, and I remember one night I must have been 7 or 8 years old, and we ended up running into him, and went over there and congratulated him. He had won that night, I believe, and he he handed us the keys to his car, me and my younger brother, and he asked, you want the keys to the car? And we were like, what? And he ends up giving us the keys to the car, and that was like the nail in the coffin. He was our childhood hero when it came to the demolition derbies, and it was awesome. It was really awesome, and to watch, these kids growing up into the next generations and generations of it. It's really cool. It's really cool to see, somebody go from just a regular guy that, maybe he's, drives lumber around, or, drives a tow truck or something like that. And then on the weekends, he's a hero, but the guy that really stuck out was Long John Silver. And, he was our favorite driver back in the day. And when Jamie invited me to do this build off, there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to do it. And I knew exactly what I was doing when I accepted the offer to join the build off. So he did send me a set of rules, and I read over them, but I didn't read them all. And he assigned numbers. So in the rules, it said that you had to use the number on the roof plate and on the driver's door, and I didn't put it on the driver's door, and I didn't want to change this car, so I'm building another car for that. So I was looking through my cars, and I found this 66, I believe, Ford Fairlane, and it was really beat up, so I figured this is the one, First, we started off with drilling out the car here. You'll see you got to be careful when you do this. You got to make sure that you're centered on the post, and take your time with it. Don't rush this process, because if you slip, you can put it through your hand. You don't want to do that. So, being that the roof was crushed in on this car, I knew it was going to be a challenge right out of the gate. So I decided to come up with a game plan, right? And this, what you see here, is just the car blown up after the posts are drilled out. Both axles were bent. I wasn't sure if I was going to use the wheels or not. After talking to Preston Tankosaurus, he gave me some insight as to what these guys used, and I decided to make a change halfway through the build, and you'll see what happens. But basically, everything was really grimy on this car, so I threw it in a little Chinese container there with some soap and water. It's just dish soap, and I let it sit overnight, and then scrubbed it with a toothbrush. And then I was doing 4 builds at once, so I decided to throw all of them into the paint stripper. I used Citrus Strip, which is a paint stripper that doesn't smell very bad. It actually smells kind of good, like oranges. I threw them all in there, let it sit overnight. Once it's done in the morning, you wash it off, and the stuff the paint just comes right off, So that's what the castings look like in the morning. Usually if I'm trying to really clean something up, I'll use a Dremel, but knowing this was a demo car, I didn't bother cleaning up the casting, the metal there. And then I had to straighten out the roof. So, I just took a vise and a C-clamp basically, and clamped it on there, tightened it up as far as it would go, and we ended up with a straight roof. But I messed up because I took a screwdriver and I tried to straighten out the post while it was clamped, and I actually snapped one of the posts that you'll see right there, coming down the backside there. But I didn't think it was that big of a deal, being that it's a demo car. I know that in the real world, that's probably a big deal, and they would have had to really reinforce that part. But anyway, I put a mesh grate in there. It's just a window grate from your house, and I drilled 2 holes in the hood there because I needed to make a channel for the exhaust pipes that I was gonna make stick out the hood, and it was actually in the rules that you had to have a 12 by 12 hole in the hood, and that the exhaust holes would count for that. So I ended up killing two birds with one stone, and we made that made that hole, mocked it up there to see how the pipes were going to look, and then I cut out another hole with the jeweler's saw. You got to be really careful with the jeweler's saw too. Make sure that you take your time. So then I took some square stock polystyrene, and I took a piece of bread container, like the when you twist the bread and put that piece right there on there. I just cut up a little piece of it, and closed it off to make the gas tank. And I made the number plate out of that as well. It's just plasticard, and it's free. People throw the stuff out, but when it comes to this hobby, it's invaluable. So in the rules to his contest, it's in like Alabama or something like that, or Illinois, I don't know. They use a roll bar, which has to come up over the top. So I had to make it out of something. I was just mocking up some wooden sticks there, but I ended up changing it. And now I'm just using a Dremel. I went outside. It was kind of cold out, but I don't like the smell of burnt plastic in the house with the family and everything. So I went outside and basically just cut out the grill, and I had to make some clearance for the tires, and I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to do this yet, because it's the first time I've ever built a demo car. And I've never built, just for the record, I've never built a demo car in real life. So don't be too critical about the build and how it ends up and all that. I'm just doing my best to replicate my childhood hero's car, right? So we took the Dremel, we buzzed out a bunch of stuff. I made some room in the wheel wells there to adjust the wheelbase if I needed to, and the ride height, and I reamed out a channel to put the axle tubes in. Once I ended up making the axle tubes, they're thicker than Hot Wheels axles, so they don't just fit in there. You got to kind of custom make it. I hit it with a Rust-Oleum gray primer, and then I went in and drilled a hole in the trunk, because you needed a 12 by 12 hole in the trunk for inspection purposes, I guess. So when I did that, I didn't drill all the way through. I actually drilled through, and then I took a pair of dikes and kind of made it look rough, like he forgot to put the hole there and had to do it at the track with whatever was laying around, right? So this is where I make the axle tubes. It's just copper rod, and I use head pins for my axles. And I stole these wheels off of a Jeep Wrangler by Matchbox, just because they had a little bit of an off-roadish look to it, and did that. So now we're looking at, I put a roll bar inside because that's what my home track uses usually, and I wasn't exactly sure on his rules. It was kind of shaky, so that's what I did. And I used black, apple barrel black on the exhaust pipes there, and then I end up dry brushing it with a Games Workshop paint called Lead Belcher. And in the rules, you have to have a contrasting driver's door and a window net on the driver's door. So I took the mesh, I put that there, I put the black paint on there, and now you're just gonna see. I didn't have silver paint, right? So I took the Lead Belcher, which is like a silver kind of, but it's more of a lead color, and I just started dry brushing over the whole body of the car, just to give it a little bit of shine. Being that it's a demo car, and a lot of these things are just built in the backyard, and use a brush or a paint roller or whatever you got. I didn't want it to look too good, so I didn't just paint it that color. I dry brushed it on to keep the gray underneath, but give it a little bit of sparkle. And then I end up knocking it back down afterwards with a black wash called Nuln Oil, just to give it a little bit of a darker color to it, right? And now this probably isn't historically correct. I could only find three pictures of his car, and they were black, and I don't think he always ran black. So I was just doing this off of memory and off of what I thought that his car looked like. So basically, I went in and free-handed the graphics that he would put on his car, and it was all painted. It wasn't graphics, but I free-handed his name on there. I couldn't remember what number he ran, so I didn't bother putting that on. And I was building this for the competition, and he gave me the number 41. So I didn't want to put it on the car because you'll find out. My brother had told me that these guys would stretch the front frame rails and it would make the front end sit up higher, right? So that's why the car has like a negative rake to it. And then I could have used straps, and I'm pretty sure that's what these guys used. But I had this chain sitting around, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to drill a hole in the hood. I'm going to drill a hole in the trunk. I'll drill holes down through the chassis, and we'll chain this thing up and make it look mean, because the straps, I don't feel like would have gave it as much character. I don't know. I could be wrong there. But basically, that was the process of me trying to put together my childhood hero, Demolition Derby driver, Long John Silver's car. This is the three pictures that I found on the Facebook community. And in 1990, he won the world championship. So that was really cool, and I believe I was there for that. I would have been, a young kid at that time. So my memory isn't the best as far as that goes, but they say it might not be for everybody, but it might be everything to somebody. And this guy, for what it's worth, it's something I'll never forget, so it's the best way that I can honor him having an impact on my childhood, right? So this is the car that we started out with. It's a 66 Ford Fairlane, dented in, had a rough life, but we brought it back from the dead and gave it new faith. And I think we did a pretty good job, This is how it would have ended up going out to the tournament, with the roll bar on top and the number plate. And when I found out that I misread the rules and I needed to put the number on the door, I didn't want to paint it on there because I plan on giving this car to Long John Silver if I can track him down. So I believe I made contact with one of his friends tonight, and we're going to make sure that it ends up in his hands. And I hope he likes it. I really do, So this is the car that we ultimately end up with. It is a 66 Fairlane. It's set up to go. It's got headers out the hood and mesh grille. I painted the tires white just to give it a little bit of character. I don't know if he ever did that with his cars, but I remember, seeing all the colorful tires and stuff like that, and it really looked cool back in the day when these guys would come out for battle, And that's basically it, man. These are just some still shots because the rotating thing didn't have the best lighting. So if you guys can see what I did here with certain details, and I think the total package came together the best that I could do. This is the first time I ever built a demo car, right? So I did the best that I could off of pictures and the help that I had got through text messages and conversations. So that's basically it, guys. If this is the first time that you've seen my channel and you like what it is, consider subscribing and like the video and leave a comment down below. That was my honor to Long John Silver. I hope you like it, guys. Have a good